130. Gao Yun, the honest historian. The rulers of northern Wei were from the Tuoba branch of the Xianbei people. In the early Eastern Jin dynasty, the Tuoba clan was still a nomadic tribe in northeastern China. However, over time, they absorbed Chinese culture and gradually adopted a feudal economic system. In 386 AD, the Xianbei noble Tuoba Gui established northern Wei, becoming Emperor Daowu of Wei. After founding the dynasty, he appointed many Han Chinese scholars as advisors. Among them, the most prominent was Cui Hao. Cui Hao's influence and the compilation of Wei's history. During northern Wei's unification of northern China, Cui Hao played a major role, earning the trust of 3 consecutive emperors. When Emperor Taiwu of Wei, Tuoba Tao, ascended the throne, Cui Hao became chancellor, wielding enormous power. He also appointed Han Chinese scholars as local governors, which caused tension between the Xianbei aristocracy and Han officials. At one point, Emperor Taiwu ordered Cui Hao and a team of scholars to compile the official history of northern Wei. The emperor explicitly instructed that the historical records must be based on accurate accounts. Cui Hao and his colleagues collected extensive historical materials and compiled a comprehensive history of Wei. At the time, the emperor's main intention was for this history to be a private record for the royal family. However, 2 scholars working under Cui Hao suggested engraving the history onto stone tablets and displaying them publicly. They argued that this would elevate Cui Hao's prestige. Confident in his own achievements and power, Cui Hao agreed, spending large sums of money to have the entire history inscribed on stone tablets. These tablets were erected along the road leading to the imperial altar, where people passing by could read them. The backlash against Cui Hao. Although the history was factually accurate, northern Wei's early culture had been relatively primitive, and many aspects of its past appeared disgraceful in the eyes of its rulers. When people read the inscriptions, discussions and criticisms began to spread. The Xianbei nobility believed that Cui Hao had publicly humiliated the imperial family, and they accused him before Emperor Taiwu. They claimed that Cui Hao and his scholars had deliberately exposed the dynasty's shortcomings. The emperor had already grown dissatisfied with Cui Hao's arrogance, and when he heard this complaint, he flew into a rage. He ordered the immediate arrest of everyone involved in compiling the history. Gao Yun's dilemma. One of the arrested scholars was Gao Yun, a historian who also served as the tutor to the crown prince. Upon hearing of Gao Yun's arrest, the crown prince panicked. He summoned Gao Yun to the eastern palace and told him, "Tomorrow, I will accompany you to meet the emperor. If he questions you, only answer according to what I tell you. Do not say anything else." Gao Yun was unsure of the situation but agreed to follow the crown prince to the imperial court the next day. Gao Yun's unwavering honesty. When they arrived, the crown prince met Emperor Taiwu first, saying, "Gao Yun has always been cautious and has no significant position. The entire case is Cui Hao's responsibility. Please spare Gao Yun's life." Emperor Taiwu then summoned Gao Yun and asked, "Was Cui Hao solely responsible for writing the national history?" Gao Yun, refusing to lie or evade, answered truthfully, "No. Cui Hao was too busy with state affairs. He only provided the general framework. The actual content was written by me and the other scholars." Hearing this, Emperor Taiwu turned to the crown prince and said, "You see? Gao Yun's crime is even greater than Cui Hao's. How can I pardon him?" The crown prince quickly tried to cover for Gao Yun, saying, "Your Majesty, Gao Yun must have been frightened and spoke nonsense. I just questioned him myself, and he told me that Cui Hao was responsible." The emperor looked at Gao Yun again and asked, "Is this true?" Gao Yun firmly replied, "I have committed a crime, but I would never dare to deceive your Majesty. The crown prince only spoke in an attempt to save my life. In truth, he never questioned me, nor did I tell him anything different." Emperor Taiwu, seeing Gao Yun's unwavering honesty, was deeply moved. He turned to the crown prince and said, "Even when facing death, Gao Yun refuses to tell a lie. That is truly remarkable. I will pardon him. The execution of Cui Hao. Afterward, Emperor Taiwu had Cui Hao brought in for questioning. By now, Cui Hao was terrified, pale, and speechless. Seeing his pathetic state, the emperor became even angrier and ordered Gao Yun to draft an edict sentencing Cui Hao and his entire family to death. However, when Gao Yun returned to his office, he hesitated for a long time, unable to write even a single word. The emperor's messengers repeatedly urged him to complete the order, but Gao Yun finally responded. I must request another audience with the emperor. Gao Yun's final plea for justice. When Gao Yun met Emperor Taiwu again, he pleaded, I do not know what other crimes Cui Hao has committed. If his only fault was writing the national history, then execution is too severe. Emperor Taiwu became furious and ordered soldiers to tie up Gao Yun. Only after repeated pleas from the crown prince did the emperor finally relent and release Gao Yun. Despite Gao Yun's efforts, Cui Hao was ultimately executed, along with his entire family. Gao Yun's honesty saves lives. Although Gao Yun failed to save Cui Hao, his courageous plea for justice prevented a massive purge. According to Emperor Taiwu himself, if not for Gao Yun, I would have executed thousands more people. The aftermath. In 452 AD, Emperor Taiwu was assassinated by a eunuch, marking the end of his reign. The following year, in the Lu Song dynasty, Emperor Wen's son, Lu Jun, ascended the throne, becoming Emperor Xiaowu of Song. Though Gao Yun never gained great political power, his unwavering commitment to honesty and justice became legendary in Chinese history, serving as an enduring example of integrity in government. 131. Great inventor Zhu Chongzhi. After Emperor Xiaowu of the Song dynasty ascended the throne, the Song dynasty quickly fell into decline. However, during this period, a remarkable scientist named Zhu Chongzhi emerged. Zhu Chongzhi's grandfather, Zhu Chang, served as an official responsible for overseeing court construction during the Song dynasty. Growing up in such a scholarly family, Zhu Chongzhi read extensively from an early age, earning him a reputation as a learned young man. He had a particular passion for mathematics and was also interested in astronomy and calendar systems. He frequently observed the movements of the sun and celestial bodies, carefully recording his observations. Hearing of his talent, Emperor Xiaowu of the Song appointed him to work at the Hualin Academy, a government institution dedicated to scholarly research. Though Zhu Chongzhi had little interest in officialdom, this position allowed him to fully dedicate himself to his studies in mathematics and astronomy. Throughout Chinese history, government-appointed astronomers studied celestial movements to establish calendar systems. By the time of the Song dynasty, calendar calculations had improved significantly, yet Zhu Chongzhi believed they were still inaccurate. Based on years of meticulous observations, he devised a new calendar system known as the Daming calendar, named after Emperor Xiaowu's reign title, Daming. The accuracy of this calendar was astonishing. It calculated the length of a tropical year, the time between two successive winter solstices, with an error margin of only 50 seconds compared to modern measurements. Additionally, it determined the lunar orbit cycle with an error of less than 1 second, demonstrating its exceptional precision. In 462 AD, Zhu Chongzhi requested Emperor Xiaowu to officially adopt his new calendar. The emperor gathered his ministers to discuss the proposal. However, a favored court official, Dai Faxing, opposed it, arguing that altering the ancient calendar was a heretical act. Zhu Chongzhi immediately refuted Dai Faxing with his research data. However, relying on his favor with the emperor, Dai stubbornly insisted the calendar was established by the ancients, and future generations should not alter it. Undeterred, Zhu Chongzhi sternly responded, "If you have factual evidence, present it for debate. Do not intimidate others with empty rhetoric." Emperor Xiaowu, wanting to support Dai Faxing, gathered several court scholars knowledgeable in calendar systems to debate Zhu Chongzhi, yet each one was defeated by his arguments. Nevertheless, the emperor refused to implement the new calendar. It was not until 10 years after Zhu Chongzhi's death that his Daming calendar was finally adopted. Despite the political instability of his era, Zhu Chongzhi remained devoted to scientific research. His greatest contributions were in mathematics. He annotated the ancient mathematical text The Nine Chapters on the Mathematical Art and authored a work titled Zhuai Shu, Method of Interpolation. His most outstanding achievement was in the calculation of pi symbol. Through extensive and rigorous calculations, he determined that pi lay between 3.1415926 and 3.1415927, making him the first scientist in the world to approximate pi beyond 6 decimal places. Zhu Chongzhi was also an inventor with diverse talents. He designed a south-pointing chariot, a device in which a copper figure continuously pointed south regardless of how the chariot turned. He also constructed a 1,000-li boat, which was successfully tested on the Xinting River, modern-day Nanjing, covering over 100 li, approximately 50 kilometers, in a day. Furthermore, he developed a hydraulic-powered grain mill known as the water-driven pestle mill, which used water power to grind grain and husk rice. After Zhu Chongzhi's death, his son Zhu Geng and grandson Zhu Hao continued his work, dedicating themselves to mathematics and calendar studies. It is said that Zhu Geng was so deeply absorbed in his research that he could not even hear thunder during a storm. He often pondered problems while walking. Once, he accidentally collided with a high-ranking official, Su Mian, on the street. Only when Su Mian called out to him did he snap out of his deep thoughts, hurriedly bowing in apology. Understanding his devotion to scholarship, Su Mian did not blame him. In Zhu Chongzhi's later years, Xiao Daoqing, who controlled the Song dynasty's imperial guards, overthrew the Song dynasty. In 479 AD, Xiao Daoqing proclaimed himself emperor and established the Southern Qi dynasty, becoming Emperor Qi Gao. Zhu Chongzhi's legacy as a pioneer in mathematics, astronomy, and engineering endures, marking him as one of China's greatest scientists in history. 132. Fan Zhen opposes superstition. During the Northern and Southern dynasties, Buddhism gradually became more widespread. In the Southern Qi dynasty, the ruling court, from the emperor to high-ranking officials, fervently promoted Buddhism. One of its staunchest supporters was Xiao Ziliang, the Prince of Jingling and Prime Minister of Southern Qi. Xiao Ziliang owned a villa on Jilong Mountain, in the outskirts of Jiankang, modern-day Nanjing, where he frequently hosted gatherings of scholars and literati for discussions over drinks. Occasionally, he also invited Buddhist monks to lecture on Buddhist doctrines. He was so devoted that he personally served the monks food and tea. Many people believed this was beneath the dignity of a prime minister, but Xiao Ziliang did not care. With the prime minister's endorsement, Buddhism gained even greater influence. The monks preached that after a person's death, their soul remained eternal. They also promoted the doctrine of karmic retribution, claiming that one's wealth or poverty in this life was a result of past deeds. According to them, the suffering of the poor was predestined and could not be resisted. At that time, a bold scholar named Fan Zhen, pronounced Zhen, publicly challenged this belief, calling it superstition and urging people not to be deceived. Fan Zhen's cousin, Fan Yun, was a frequent guest at Xiao Ziliang's residence. When Xiao Ziliang heard that Fan Zhen dared to oppose Buddhism, he was furious and ordered Fan Yun to summon Fan Zhen to his home. Xiao Ziliang confronted him, saying, "You don't believe in karmic retribution? Then tell me, why are some people born into wealth and nobility while others are born into poverty and misery?" Fan Zhen, unfazed, calmly replied, "That is not surprising at all. Let me give you an analogy. Life is like petals on a tree. When the wind blows, the petals scatter in different directions. Some float past the curtains and land on the banquet mat, while others drift beyond the fence and fall into the dung pit." Xiao Ziliang stared at him, momentarily unable to grasp his meaning. Fan Zhen continued, "Those that land on the banquet mat, people like you, live in wealth and luxury. Those that fall into the dung pit, people like me, are born into hardship. That is simply how life works. There is no such thing as karmic retribution. After leaving Xiao Ziliang's residence, Fan Zhen felt that while he had refuted the argument well, he had not fully explained his opposition to superstition. Therefore, he wrote an essay titled Shen Yeluan on the annihilation of the soul. In this essay, he argued, the human body is the essence of the spirit, and the spirit is merely a function of the body. The relationship between the body and the spirit is like that between a knife and its sharpness. Without the knife, there is no sharpness. Without the body, how can there be a soul? Fan Zhen further asserted that after death, the soul ceases to exist, and that karmic retribution was nothing more than a deception. Fan Zhen's ideas shake the court. Once his essay was published, the entire imperial court erupted in an uproar. Many of Xiao Ziliang's supporters and friends insisted that Fan Zhen must be severely punished. Xiao Ziliang summoned a group of eminent Buddhist monks to debate him. However, since Fan Zhen's arguments were based on reason and evidence, the monks were ultimately unable to refute him. A devout Buddhist official named Wang Yan sarcastically remarked, "Ah, Master Fan, since you do not believe in spirits, you must not even know where your ancestors' souls are now." Fan Zhen sharply countered, "What a pity, Master Wang. Since you claim to know where your ancestors' souls are, why haven't you gone to join them yet?" Xiao Ziliang, concerned that Fan Zhen's influence might weaken faith in Buddhism, sought to suppress him. A few days later, he sent a trusted official, Wang Rong, to persuade him. The Prime Minister greatly values talented individuals. With your intellect, securing a high-ranking position such as an imperial scholar, Zhongshulang, would be easy. Why insist on advocating ideas that go against the prevailing trend? I genuinely feel sorry for you. I suggest you withdraw that misguided essay." Upon hearing this, Fan Zhen laughed aloud and replied, "If I were willing to abandon my principles in exchange for an official position, I could have aimed for a much higher post than imperial scholar. Why would I care about such a trivial title?" Xiao Ziliang, unable to suppress Fan Zhen, reluctantly let him be. The fall of the Southern Qi dynasty. The Southern Qi dynasty lasted only 2 emperors, Qi Gao Emperor and Qi Wu Emperor, before falling into internal turmoil. In 502 AD, the governor of Yongzhou, Xiao Yan, launched a military campaign, seized Jiankang, and overthrew the Southern Qi dynasty. Xiao Yan then established the Liang dynasty, becoming Emperor Wu of Liang. Despite the political chaos of his time, Fan Zhen's fearless opposition to superstition and his advocacy of rational thought left a lasting impact on Chinese philosophy.